Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Cameron Fall, and I am a part of the Colorado Coaching Consortium, which is a collaborative of coaches and leaders and advocates that are working together to strengthen early childhood coaching across the entire state of Colorado. This is our inaugural conference. It's our first time ever hosting a conference. We wanted to do it virtually just to make sure that everybody across the state could join us and have access. And this year's conference theme is building and sustaining relationships during challenging times. And we know that the past few years have brought a lot of shifts, and through it all, relationships remain at the heart of all of our work. And today is about connecting, reflecting, and learning together. And we have a full schedule of sessions led by coaches across Colorado. And we're excited for the insights that you'll gain and the voices that you'll be able to hear throughout our 3 days. And just a few quick notes just as we get started. All of our sessions are going to be recorded, except for breakout rooms. Breakout rooms are all private, so you can revisit the sessions later for continued learning. You'll see calendar invites and Zoom links in your participant schedule that was emailed out to you. Feel free to come and go as your schedule allows. And finally, on the next slide, we've included a few community norms just to help us stay grounded and connected throughout the days. And thank you so much for showing up, for your commitment to this work, and for all the ways that you support each other. And let's go ahead and get started. You can go ahead and, oh, okay, perfect. Norms are already there. So these are our conference norms. So confidentiality with care. So all of our sessions are recorded. So share thoughtfully. The breakout rooms are private. Honor each other's stories in those spaces. And if you're uncomfortable with being recorded or anything like that, you can always go off of camera, and then you can even change your like little Zoom name in your box to something like participant so that you're, not identified in any way. So feel free to show up in ways that feel most authentic to you. And yeah, and engage authentically. So join in whatever way that feels right. So you can come off mute, you can use the chat to communicate, you can have your camera on or off. We want you to speak from your own experience. Use I statements. So we want to share your story and not the stories of others as applicable, right? And stay open and curious. So this is a space for learning and growth, not for perfection. And we want to make sure that we're making space for all voices. Keep comments brief to allow room for others, and take what serves you. So hold on to what resonates with you and then release what doesn't. And I am going to drop in a resource for our first session that Shelley, Janet, and Lorene will talk about in a second. And thank you all so much.
Well, thanks, Cameron. I'm Lorene Phillips, and I'd like to welcome you all to our session today in our conference. We're excited you chose to join um, this conference over the next 3 days. We have folks from all over Colorado registered. We have just under 100 people registered, so we're very excited about that. So thank you for joining us. We wanted to start by thanking Temple Hoyne Buell Foundation for continuing to financially support our efforts on behalf of Colorado coaches. We'd also like to thank the Early Childhood Council Leadership Alliance, ECLA, for continuing to be our fiscal sponsor and our conduit to the Temple Hoyne Buell Foundation, and for all of ECLA's support for coaches to participate in professional learning opportunities. We're so appreciative of both those groups. So in times of increasing stress, uncertainty, and funding challenges, the ability to build and sustain meaningful relationships is more critical than ever. In our post-COVID world, as we focus on strengthening our coping skills and navigating systemic shifts in the early childhood landscape, how can we ensure relationships remain a source of support and stability for professionals? So I'm joined by Janet and Shelley this morning as we explore the key characteristics of sustainable relationships that foster trust and resilience. So our outline for this morning is a little bit more of a welcome. This will be a little interactive session we'll have a word cloud, we'll have a breakout room, we'll show some short videos, and we invite all your responses to be shared. And as Cameron shared with us, either in the chat or you can speak out, raise your hand. Since there's so many, maybe raising hands will be the best way to do that. And then the next session following ours will engage you more in breakout groups to discuss this topic further. So the Colorado Coaching Consortium, we just wanted to say a few words about who we are. It started in 2007, and it was created in response to a need. And that need was to connect the various coaching initiatives across the state under a common standard of excellence in order to best serve the community of coaches and the people they serve. So you can see on this slide, our mission is to provide opportunities, promote connections, and advocate on behalf of early childhood coaches throughout Colorado, with the vision of Colorado's early childhood coaches reach their potential to achieve the most responsive impact. So please check out our website if you want to learn more about the Colorado Coaching Consortium. So I'm going to turn over to Shelley now to talk a little bit about what is coaching.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Laureen. Really appreciate you with that introduction. So this morning we're gonna talk about gonna be a lot of talk about what is coaching. And so to set the context for the kind of coaching we'll be addressing in the next 3 days, we want to start with the Colorado Coaching Consortium's definition. And so that definition reads, the Colorado Coaching Consortium defines coaching as a co-learning process based on collaborative relationship that is intentionally designed to promote sustainable growth in necessary attitudes, skills, and knowledge to effectively implement best practices for the development of young children and their families. Coaching facilitates problem-solving processes by supporting reflection, clarifying, and implementing ideas. So the first sentence emphasizes that the coach must learn as much, if not more, than the coaching partner. Without fully understanding the coaching partner and the situations incurred, the coach cannot truly partner with the coaching partner. The learning must happen together as they work together through any situation. And then the last line here in the definition focuses on not being the expert or the consultant or the technical assistance provider, and not fixing or solving the challenges incurred by our coaching partners. Rather, the focus is on supporting the coaching partner through reflection and questioning to explore the situation more deeply, gathering more data, and reaching their own solution for the challenges they incur. No one else has that tactic knowledge to do so. And so it's just it's listening to our coachees and then asking the questions. And we'll do a deeper dive further in our session this morning. So also the definition is clarified more in the Colorado coaching competencies, and it's slightly adapted from the early childhood from the International Coaching Federation. And the International Coaching Federation, we use it with permission, and it's the most recognized coaching authority in the world with 62,616 members. Awesome. And so next, what we'd like to do is we'd like to ask you to go ahead and you can scan the QR code. And what we'd like to ask you is to explore how can we build and sustain relationships that support us as professionals, as a community. And so we're going to put together a word cloud. And so if you wouldn't mind scanning the QR code to respond and just put in your one-word answer, and we'll see what most of our folks here today have to say. Like, what would that one thing be that's most important? in building a sustainable relationship with coachees. There's also a link in the chat. And so we'll give you guys a few minutes to do that. All right, in the chat already, trust and collaboration have come up. Trust has come up. Trust is a big one. Ah, here we go. Yep. So communication, trust, respect, those ones are all coming up as big ones for all of us. It kind of keeps changing a little bit. Confidentiality is in there. Authenticity is in there. Open communication, active listening, being present, um, compassion, yes. There's many others. Reflecting together, balance. Communication's coming up pretty big again. All right. Open-mindedness, deep-hearted listening. All these are so good. Building that relationship, understanding, it's coming up twice. Laughter, honesty, definitely. Truly listening, being reliable. Being reliable is huge because we cannot build trust without being reliable. Equal responsibility. Everybody has that role to play. Coachee as leader, so true. They are the ones who know their classrooms best, having that open-mindedness of what's coming. Partnership. I'm trying to think if have we missed any, Janet? Looks like we've got them all. All right. So go ahead, Janet.
That needs to go on our coaching consortium website. And I know Cameron's in charge of that. So we'll have to get that on there because I think that's so important and what makes a professional relationship feel truly supportive. This really captures it. So thank you everyone for that contribution. Go ahead, Shell. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So we just really wanted to get your guys' feedback on what was the most important. And clearly, trust came up and that's kind of where we thought this group would go. But so today we're going to be talking about trust as one of the pillars that we've put together for this presentation. And so I'm trying to think who's up next for trust. I think that's Janet.
So yeah, thanks, Shell. I'm Janet Humphreys, and I've been around for a long time in Colorado, long time coach, working with coaching potentials on coaching courses. I love to see some of our former graduates right here in this room, forever learning, right? So what makes a relationship sustainable? What we've done is we've set up a couple of different videos to make it very clear what all of these are. Trust came in really big in our last word cloud there. And so I want to start with trust, and then we're going to get into these other aspects of what makes a relationship sustainable. So Lorene, if I could share, there we go. Okay, and sound. Share. All right. So here's one by Brene Brown. We're all loving Brene Brown these days, and it's 10 minutes, but really she breaks down trust in such a way that really seems to work well. So make some notes on your handout that Cameron gave you, just so that you can take it into the next session next time.
So I started looking in the research and I found a definition from Charles Feltman that I think is the most beautiful definition I've ever heard. And it's simply this: trust is choosing to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else. choosing to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else. Feltman says that distrust is what I have shared with you that is important to me is not safe with you. So I thought, that's true. And Feltman really calls for this, let's understand what trust is. So we went back into all the data to find out, can I figure out what trust is? Do I know what trust is from the data? And I think I do know what trust is. And I put together an acronym, BRAVING, B-R-A-V-I-N-G, braving. Because when we trust, we are braving connection with someone. So what are the parts of trust? B, boundaries. I trust you if you are clear about your boundaries and you hold them and you're clear about my boundaries and you respect them. There is no trust without boundaries. R, reliability. I can only trust you if you do what you say you're going to do, and not once. Reliability, let me tell you what reliability is in research terms. We're always looking for things that are valid and reliable. Any researchers here or research kind of geeks? There's 10 of us. Okay, so we would say a scale that you weigh yourself on is valid if you get on it and it's an accurate weight, 120. Okay. So that would be a very valid scale. I would pay a lot of money for that scale. So that's actually not a valid scale, but we'll pretend for the sake of this. That's a valid scale. A reliable scale is a scale that if I got on it 100 times, it's gonna say the same thing every time. So what reliability is you do what you say you're going to do over and over and over again. You cannot gain and earn my trust if you're reliable once, because that's not the definition of reliability. In our working lives, reliability means that we have to be very clear on our limitations so we don't take on so much that we come up short and don't deliver on our commitments. In our personal life, it means the same thing. So when we say to someone, oh God, it was so great seeing you, I'm gonna give you a call and we can have lunch. Yes or no? No. It was really great seeing you. Moment of discomfort, goodbye. Right? But honest. So B, boundaries. R, reliability. A, huge, accountability. I can only trust you if, when you make a mistake, you are willing to own it, apologize for it, and make amends. I can only trust you if when I make a mistake, I am allowed to own it, apologize, and make amends. No accountability, no trust. V, and this one shook me to the core. Vault, the vault. What I share with you, you will hold in confidence. What you share with me, I will hold in confidence. But you know what we don't understand? And this came up over and over again in the research. We don't understand the other side of the vault. That's only one door on the vault. Here's where we lose trust with people. If a good friend comes up to me and says, oh my God, did you hear about Caroline? They're getting a divorce and it is ugly. I'm pretty sure her partner's cheating. You have just shared something with me that was not yours to share. And now my trust for you, even though you're gossiping and giving me the juice, now my trust for you is completely diminished. Does that make sense? So the vault is not just about the fact that you hold my confidences. It's that in our relationship, I see that you acknowledge confidentiality. Here's the tricky thing about the vault. A lot of times, we share things that are not ours to share as a way to hotwire connection with a friend, right? If you don't have anything nice to say, come sit next to me. You know, that's our, yes or no? Like our closeness is built on talking bad about other people. You know what I call that? Common enemy intimacy. What we have is not real. The intimacy we have is built on hating the same people. And that's counterfeit. That's counterfeit trust. That's not real. So the vault means you respect my story, but you respect other people's story. Integrity. I cannot trust you and be in a trusting relationship with you if you do not act from a place of integrity and encourage me to do the same. So what is integrity? So I came up with this definition because I didn't like any of the ones out there, and that's what I do when I don't like them. I do. I look in the data and I say, what's integrity? Here's what I think integrity is. 3 pieces. It's choosing courage over comfort, choosing what's right over what's fun, fast, or easy, and practicing your values, not just professing your values. Right? I mean, that's integrity. In non-judgment, I can fall apart, ask for help, and be in struggle without being judged by you. And you can fall apart and be in struggle and ask for help without being judged by me. Which is really hard because we're better at helping than we are asking for help. And we think that we've set up trusting relationships with people who really trust us because we're always there to help them. But let me tell you this, if you can't ask for help and they cannot reciprocate that, that is not a trusting relationship. Period. And when we assign value to needing help, when I think less of myself for needing help, whether you're conscious of it or not, when you offer help to someone, you think less of them too. You cannot judge yourself for needing help, but not judge others for needing your help. And somewhere in there, if you're like me, you're getting value from being the helper in a relationship. You think that's your worth. But real trust doesn't exist unless help is reciprocal and non-judgment. The last one is G, generosity. Our relationship is only a trusting relationship if you can assume the most generous thing about my words, intentions, and behaviors, and then check in with me. So if I screw up, say something, forget something, you will make a generous assumption and say, yesterday was my mom's 1-year anniversary of her death, and it was really tough for me, and I talked to you about it last month. And I really was hoping that you would have called. But I know you care about me. I know you think it's a big deal, so I wanted to let you know that I've been thinking about that. As opposed to not returning calls, not returning emails, and waiting for the moment where you can spring, well, you forgot to call on this important, you'll make a generous assumption about me and check it out. Does that make sense? So we've got boundaries, reliability, accountability, the vault, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. This is the anatomy of trust, and it's complex.
All right. So, oops, hold on. Something happened there. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So I'd like you to do right now, really think about what she just talked about and answer the question, what aspect of braving rings most true to you? And a little bit maybe about why, right? So put that in the chat if you will. And this question is on your handout, so you can certainly also make a note on your handout so that you can take that into the next session as well. So let's see what's coming in on all of this. Take a look at that. She's always so amazing. While we're getting these, Shelley, you have a story to tell about that, don't you?
Yeah, so sometimes when I walk in to to a facility to coach, whether that's a home provider or a center, sometimes teachers have pre-decided before they even meet me that they are not going to be coached, that they've decided not to let me in. And so that does happen occasionally. And so with that, I just have learned to just let that go and just keep trying to build the relationship with that particular person every time I show up, and keep being friendly and keep saying hi and how you're doing. And just know that there are people out there before you ever walk through the doors. They're like, nope, whatever this is, I'm not doing it. And that's okay. We're going to just, we're going to keep on.
And it's really a story about what we do with children, right? Are they ready for it? No. Okay. Then we'll just hold off and just give them grace, give them that generosity, and really look at when the timing's right, they'll come to us. And
Right.
over the years, I've found that's pretty true most of the time. So I love this accountability, reliability, integrity, especially practicing your values. Thank you, Melissa. That's a big one. Reliability, boundaries, keeping a clear focus. I'm still working on boundaries. I'm apparently a national speaker on it, but that's why I'm a national speaker, is so that I keep reminding myself to get my own boundaries together, I suppose, right? Humility, reliability, generosity, integrity. I don't see a lot of whys in here. Vault, Lindsay, you're finally bringing up that vault. That is such a big one, isn't it? Heather also, Kathy also. This is a huge topic, right? So that was just Brene Brown, and it's just Google Engraving. You'll find numerous ones of it. Nick says accountability, accepting, recognizing, and admitting mistakes while communicating improvements to be made and using integrity to ensure. Yes, big one. All right, non-judgmental. There's Susan as part of our authenticity and being accountable, because you listen to understand. You don't listen to come up with the next question and all of that. You're really listening, taking the time to listen, to understand, and pausing. You don't need to throw out another question that next second, right? You can say, say more about that, right? And now you're getting them to do most of the talking. Alicia says all of them, because they shape the person you are and they shape the coaching partner. Absolutely. Tina, thank you. Listening to the explanation of the vault gives me a different perspective on gossip. Absolutely. So those are all, I love the way Brene Brown is really working on breaking down. A simple word is trust, but it's not simple. It is so critical to everything we're doing as a coach. All right, so I'm going to move on to a video on psychological safety. So psychological safety is often perceived, as an environment where we feel emotionally safe, though not necessarily safe enough to really say what we know in our hearts to say. Psychologically safe says you can be your authentic self and be greeted with this generosity, this non-judgment, all the things that Brene Brown was talking about. And Amy Edmondson is, she's from Harvard, and she's the #1 expert on psychological safety. She's written a book on it. It's a great book, shares her knowledge about it in this video. So let me share here, 3 minutes. All right, let's see, sound is on. Let's start that.
One of the most important factors in delivering safe and effective care is psychological safety. Allow me to define that as a belief that the workplace is safe for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, and even mistakes. And it's a sense of confidence that your voice is valued. You can think of this as a sense of permission for candor, that the workplace is somewhere where we count on your voice being heard, because you never know when you will have had the observation that someone else missed that will be mission critical to delivering safe, high quality care. Now, I want to be clear that psychological safety is not about being nice. It's not about holding back on something you think might be unpleasant. In fact, quite the opposite. It's about candor. It's also, of course, not freedom from conflict. When you're in a psychologically safe workplace, there will be conflict. People will have different points of view, and we'll get into it, and we'll seek to understand each other's views better and come out with a better solution. Psychological safety and a psychologically safe workplace doesn't mean that all of your ideas will be applauded. And it's certainly not permission to slack off. It's not a license to whine. It's not oversharing. We still want people to be thoughtful and considerate in sharing work relevant content. And important to mention, psychological safety isn't the goal. Psychological safety is a means to the goal, and that goal is excellence. That goal is commitment to high quality care. So it's important to recognize that for really high quality care, you need not just psychological safety, you also need urgency and commitment to excellence. If you don't have either psychological safety or a commitment to excellence, then you are working what I call the apathy zone, where your heart isn't in it, you don't much like your colleagues, and you're just not giving the work what you could give it. And certainly if all you had was psychological safety and no commitment to excellence, then you'd be in what we call the comfort zone, where it's quite a relaxed state of affairs. I know that that's not characterizing care delivery today. However, this is the one that worries me. When your commitment to excellence and your sense of urgency are high, but psychological safety is low, I call that the interpersonal anxiety zone, where your commitment to excellence is thwarted by not feeling that your voice is welcome. So finally, if you have both psychological safety and a commitment to excellence, that's the learning zone, that's the high performance zone. That's where problems get solved day in and day out, especially in healthcare delivery.
So with that in mind, I'd like you to think about this question. What is a strategy that you can use to ensure this psychological safety is present with your coaching partners and potentially your organization? And again, put that in the chat and also on your handout. So look at all these strategies coming in, that active listening, deep heart listening, valuing everyone's perspectives, being transparent, a big one. Thank you, Annette. Passion and commitment to quality care. Deep-hearted speaking. Thank you, Lisa. It's not just about deep heart listening, but deep heart speaking, speaking through your heart. Being respectful of everyone in the conversation, empathy, authentic wondering. Oh, thanks, Renee. That's a great one. Authenticity, they're all great. Being vulnerable, listening to understand, and being non-judgmental. It's a lot of love. When you believe it, it is felt. Oh, lovely, Stephanie. Yeah, clarify for meaning. Absolutely, making sure that what you heard was communicated in a way that it was meant to be interpreted. Authentic listening and curious. Yes. Look at all these strategies. So you think, being a coach, everybody could be a coach. This is why we offer a year-long training on how to really create coaching as your way of being, right? And we really advocate for that there's got to be training. That's one of the biggest factors out there that creates a problem for people when there's not training involved that really gets them to feel as though they are able to coach versus they are the coach. Right? Authentic listening and curious. Thanks. That's a great one to end it on. So we have another one for you that I'd like to share. Let me get this set up. This one is on reciprocity. We've been working on reciprocity. And one of the things I noticed in Brene Brown's recording at the very end, she said, help is reciprocal. So let's think about that, right? Reciprocity is kind of like a social norm that encourages these positive interactions and relationships through this give and take that's happening. I think that's what's so lovely about having a coaching partner, is that it is this co-learning situation, that if I, as the coach, I'm not learning about this human being, then why would that human being want to learn anything from me? So, when I hear also of any early childhood staff and coaches and directors certainly feeling that compassion fatigue, I think that they can't possibly have enough of those reciprocal relationships, which would tend to feed each other. So we've got to have this reciprocity. So here's a video that is only 2 minutes, but really talks a little bit about reciprocity. So setting this up, we got it. Share. And let's do that. There we go.
What is reciprocity? Have you ever noticed how a simple act of kindness can create a ripple effect? Imagine you hold the door open for someone, and in return, they smile and thank you. This small exchange can brighten your day and encourage you to continue spreading kindness. But what lies beneath these everyday interactions? Reciprocity is a social principle that describes the practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit. It is a fundamental aspect of human relationships and can be observed in various contexts, from personal interactions to business dealings. At its core, reciprocity involves a give-and-take dynamic where one party provides something of value to another, expecting that the favor will be returned in some form. This concept is not limited to tangible goods. It can also include emotional support, favors, or even information. For example, if a friend helps you move, you might feel inclined to help them with a future task, such as organizing a party. This mutual exchange strengthens bonds and builds trust between individuals. In many cultures, reciprocity is seen as a social norm. It fosters cooperation and encourages individuals to contribute to their communities. In business, companies often engage in reciprocal relationships with clients and partners to build loyalty and long-term success. For instance, a business might offer discounts to customers who refer new clients, creating a cycle of mutual benefit. Reciprocity can also be observed in nature. Many species engage in reciprocal behaviors, such as grooming or sharing food, which help maintain social bonds within groups. This behavior is essential for survival and cooperation among animals. Understanding reciprocity can enhance our interactions and relationships. By recognizing the importance of giving and receiving, we can create a more supportive and connected environment, whether in our personal lives or professional endeavors. So, the next time you experience a kind gesture, remember that it is part of a larger cycle of reciprocity that enriches our lives.
All right. So with that, the question here for your to put in the chat is, what might reciprocity look like, sound like, and feel like in your coaching relationships? Think about that. What might reciprocity, and again, put it in the chat and also on your handout to bring to our breakout sessions in the next session here. What might reciprocity look like, sound like, and feel like in your coaching relationships? Oh, Joranda says a dance. Yes, it is quite the dance. Mutual respect, sharing ideas, listening, gaining perspective, implementing information shared, gain. Thank you, Ashley. Reframing back what your coaching partner shares, being flexible, serve and return, ideas, listening, pausing. Yes, taking the time to reflect and really think through what needs to happen next. Shared trust, open questioning, questions, using clarifying questions, wondering how we can give reciprocity to ourselves. Oh, thank you, Melissa. And not depend on others. Take care of ourselves. We can say thank you to ourselves, can't we? It's like, hey, yeah, stop. Okay, let's keep going.
I love the practicality of the coffee chat or a chat over the fence. I love that. Yeah. serve and return in the form of adults world. Yeah. Acknowledging vulnerability and being willing to demonstrate our own growth. So important. I hadn't thought, it says, I hadn't thought of it that way before, but thank you for helping me see it differently. And then strengths-based and authentic back and forth interactions, and shared laughter, celebration of wins, and co-creating strategies side by side. I love that you brought in shared laughter, because a lot of times one of the things that we love as ECE people is the laughter of little children. And so that just feeds our souls, right? That give and take, making an effort to be face to face when possible, and knowing that distance and time are always barriers, and being present when together. Oh, so true, so true. I know one of the things I love about a center that I've known for about 10 years is every Thanksgiving, they get together and they make a center Thanksgiving meal for everyone. And they invite all the parents, and they invited support staff like myself. And it is just a great time of that reciprocal, I'm sharing a meal, I'm bringing a dish, and getting together. And in the video, it brought out that even our animal kingdom does that. And so it's just a great way to build those connections within and the environment for schools. So love that. Oh, here's some more. Making an effort to be, oh, sorry, that was Lisa's already. And then remembering a teacher's name a year later and having a great connection. Yes, remembering names is super important and something that I definitely struggle with. So all great responses.
Thanks so much. Yeah, for all of these. These are great, and we'll keep these recording as well. So I'm going to move on to looking at this next video. And Shelley, I'm going to turn it over to you and set up the video. So,
okay, great. All right. And this is why successful people embrace goal setting. And so this is we're going to show you about 2 minutes of this video. It is a little bit longer than that. And I personally shared it with my 2 college age kids. So when you get a chance, be sure to watch it all the way through.
I'll put the link in the chat here once we get through.
Okay, great.
Your destination. Successful people start with a goal. They know that without one, they have no directional focus with which to achieve anything. It's the very basis of their success, and all of the steps that lead to it are based on the final goal. Having a goal is imperative before making any plans to get there. Imagine setting out on a road trip without any idea of where you're going. Chances are you drive in circles and never really get anywhere. Author Steve Maraboli wrote, "If you don't know exactly where you're going, how will you know when you get there?" For example, if you have a dream of being your own boss, then your goal might be to start your own business. Once you've established what's important to you, then you can begin making plans to reach that destination. Successful people know that in order to accomplish anything, you first have to know what you want and set a goal to achieve it. When planning what they want, they do all the research. They find out everything they can about what it is they're striving for. By learning as much as possible ahead of time, they can adjust their expectations to meet or prepare for the destination. If there are skills they will need along the way, they can be sure to get the training and education they need ahead of time. By learning all they can about the goal they're wanting to reach, they increase the odds of arriving prepared to accomplish it. When setting goals to complete a particular task or project, knowing what the end result should be will help determine the steps to take. Regardless of what type of goal you have, it's important to be clear about it. Map it out. When starting any plans to reach a goal, successful people know that it can help to map out the route to reach your destination. For example, what steps would you take? By having a plan, it gives you a clearer picture of where to start and what milestones you can expect along the way. What points of interest would you aim for? If you were taking a trip, you might look at the route you plan to take and see if there is anything that might make your journey easier or more enjoyable.
Awesome. So that video is just all about goal setting and getting to where you want to be. And then as coaches, that's our goal, is to help folks get to where they want to be. And so for me as a coach, the reason they get me is because they've signed up through, I coach specifically to Colorado Shines. So they got me because they signed up to go through a rating. But I need to stop and find out, what is their goal. My overall goal is to help them because the funding says, right, that they need to go through the Colorado Shines rating. But I need to pause and stop and listen to their goals. And so what I like to do is ask them what their goals are, what would they like to work on. And for example, I've had teachers say, well, I'm really struggling with art, and then I can turn that goal into of theirs, if they want to work on art, and really hone in on that and make those small wins, right? And have them get success, and then let that transfer, so really making that then the shared goal for them, and then just building on it as we go. And in the meantime, I'm building on that relationship and really connecting those two goals together. Like, okay, we're working towards rating, and you were saying you were struggling in art, and here we go. We're going to start little by little and just keep building our way. Um, so the question that we have for you is, how can you highlight the coaching partner's personal passion, purpose, growth mindset behind any shared goal? And you can put your response in the chat, and then we'll take a look at them.
And again, that's on your handout, so you can certainly make a note on your handout to bring forward as well. So yeah, how can you highlight the coaching partner's personal passion, their purpose, their growth mindset behind any one of those shared goals?
Yeah, I love some of these that are coming in the chat. Write it down, revisit it every time you meet, visualizing it together, remembering it and referring to it, allowing the coachee to lead the direction of coaching. Absolutely. Absolutely. And listen to what they really need and applying it to the bigger goal. Absolutely. Ongoing communication that is centered on their goal, and then write achievable steps that you can celebrate when complete. Yeah, that's part of possibly using that SMART goal sheet, if you guys are familiar with that one. Celebrating even small successes and attempts, right? Because a lot of times we learn more from failures than we do from successes. Supporting professional development in whatever way you can, resources, etc. Absolutely. And then using the learning style that fits the coachee best, helping them connect in small steps taken that help them to the end. Yeah. How do we eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? That's pretty common in our world to be talking about how do we eat an elephant. So yeah, just really helping them see that the things that you're there to support them in the goals that they want to set, and helping them realize that that they've probably already really set them in their brain, but bringing them out and speaking about them, and even possibly putting them down on paper so that they can see what they've achieved. And Janet or Lorraine, do you have anything to add?
No, but thanks, Shelley. So far, we've talked about what makes this relationship sustainable. We highlighted trust as kind of that main ingredient, and you did that on the word cloud.
You got it.
We've talked about the reciprocity, psychological safety. Shelley just shared about the shared goals. And the other word that came up big on the word cloud was communication. And so now we're going to touch on open and responsive communication. And we're going to watch, promise, the last video. It's a short one, but it's on the art of listening. And most of us, right, consider ourselves to be good listeners. So let's hear what Simon Sinek has to say about listening. So please listen to Simon Sinek just for a few minutes.
So listening is not the act of hearing the words spoken. It is the art of understanding the meaning behind those words. And when people say you're not listening to me, and we simply parrot back the words that they were said, congratulations, your ears work. That is the act. That is the act of listening. But the art of listening is creating an environment in which the other person feels heard. Now, you notice what I said there. The other person, and I used an emotional word, feels, right? I don't want to know that you heard the words. I want to feel heard. I want to feel seen. I want to feel understood. And that is a learnable, practicable skill. So there are many parts of it. It's things like replacing judgment with curiosity, right? That's a hard thing to do. We're a pretty judgy group, right? To be curious why someone has a point of view. It's creating a safe space for someone to, as my friend Dia Khan calls it, empty the bucket. So even if we find what they're saying just reprehensible, right? You're never going to be able to actually have dialogue until at least one of the parties gets the opportunity to say everything without judgment. And as she calls it, emptying the bucket. And once somebody feels like they've completely said everything, then they're more apt to listen to you. But usually what we do is we defend, or we litigate, or we interrupt. We point out flaws in logic, which is just frustrating. And when you point out some flaws in somebody's logic, because we're all imperfect when we speak, and we all choose the wrong words at various times. And that's not what I meant. You know what I meant, is what we have to say. Well, what if you know what you meant? Then why don't you say what you can see how this spirals. But it's things like when somebody says something, and there's really easy ways to do it. Things like, go on, tell me more. What else? And they keep talking. And you go quiet, they feel the space. And tell me more. Go on. And eventually, it's all out. And then there's a safe space for you to respond and express yourself in a constructive way. But that's correct. We do not teach listening. And listening is the way to create, to build trust with someone. You make someone feel heard, they'll trust you. It is the way to find common ground in opposition, in simple cases in business, but in more complicated cases in national politics, or in global politics, or in war. Why do William Ury, who wrote Getting to Yes, he talks about the same thing. He goes, we have talk shows, but we don't have listen shows. He says we have peace talks, but what we really need is peace listens. And he, who's been at the table at the highest levels of peace negotiations, he said people show up and start demanding what they want, and that's how the negotiations begin. Nobody starts by saying, so tell me why you came here. There's a great documentary that I recommend to learn this. It's called White Right, Meeting the Enemy by Dia Khan. In a nutshell, Dia is a Muslim woman living in the UK who was trolled by white supremacists to the point where the police got involved because her life was at risk. They told her stay away from open windows. That's how bad it got. The way Dia responded was by moving to the United States and going to meet the white supremacists. And she brought her cameras. I mean, you can see it all happen in this documentary. And basically, she gave them a safe space to feel heard. Now, that sounds mad. Like, why should she give them a safe space to feel heard? They should give her a safe space. Yeah, fine, good. It's never going to happen. Dia sits down with these white supremacists, and she gives them a safe space to feel heard. It's extreme listening. And I say it's extreme because, they hate her, They don't just disagree with her. They want her off the planet. And she lets them empty their bucket, as she calls it. And then conversation begins. And because they feel heard, they start to trust her. And as they start to trust her, she becomes a friend. And then it creates this paradox where I'm supposed to hate this woman, but I trust her and consider her a friend. And what you see is one by one, these white supremacists, these diehard white supremacists, start dropping out of the movement because they can no longer reconcile their beliefs with reality. And if it can happen in this extreme environment, then it can happen anywhere. And all that is required for us to cross political divides or disagreements at work and things like that is one of the parties has to learn how to listen. It doesn't even require both parties to learn the skill. That's the amazing thing. And it is one of the most remarkable skills that anyone can learn. The power of listening. Yeah. So the documentary is a great extreme example of what it can do.
Okay, so listening, right? A lot of times we tend to take it for granted. Sure, I'll listen, right? But are we really listening? So the question on your handout, and you can respond to in chat, is what about listening captured your attention in this video? What did Simon say that really resonated with you? Give you a couple minutes to put those into chat. While you're doing that, I related to Shelley's story about how when she enters a program and the person already doesn't want to be coached, if she goes in and listens, right, and they can empty their bucket, then they can trust her, and maybe then there's that shift and they welcome the coaching. Right. Let's see, things are coming into chat very quickly. Let's It only takes one party. Yes, right. That's amazing that it only could take, one person to be able to do the listening, trying to understand what's behind the words. The talk shows versus peace shows, Nick. Yeah, that stood out to me as well, right? Um, in fact, we think about that as coaches. Are we talking more than we're listening, or are we listening more? And being intentional about that. Create the environment to make someone feel heard and understood, letting them empty their bucket fully, right? Just not little drip drops here and there, but really take the time. And it does require time, right, to be able to let them empty that bucket. Listening connects the building trust because they can feel heard. Yep, they start to build the trust. Um, actively hearing them. Right. That's pretty impressive, right? The two very opposing groups found something in each other. I want to watch that video. I did a little behind the scenes. It is available for free on Vimeo. So if you Google it, you can find that and watch it. The art of understanding, and comes with listening, right? Listening to what is not being said, for sure. Listening for understanding, not defense. Replace judgment with curiosity. The power of being heard. Intentionality is the key, right? Letting others empty their bucket. So many good thoughts came from that. So again, throughout this whole process of building this trust, we've learned that trust is that key for sustainable relationships. And there's a lot involved in building trust, right? We can think, and we didn't cover it all in this short time that we're together, but we appreciate all the sharing you've done during this time. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to move on. Where'd lost my toolbar. There it is. Don't you love it when your computer takes over your screen and just starts moving things around and you can't find them? Okay. So if we're looking at resilience as connected to trust, so there's so many challenges being faced every day in our profession, and now so more than ever, right? And do those challenges block our ability to also see opportunities that may be there? We know our coping skills have shifted with our changing world. So now is the time to start rebuilding these skills together by acknowledging the stressors and also focusing on actionable ways relationships can help us navigate these challenges. So we know trust and resilience are intertwined. You could also say that trust is the foundation for resilience. When people trust each other, they're often better able to navigate the challenges that they face, adapt to change, and bounce back. This can reduce their stress and increase collaboration. When individuals trust that they can rely on others, like you as their coach, they are more likely to maintain a positive outlook. This contributes to their well-being and it builds their adaptive capacity, which is part of resilience, right? So as coaches, can we help folks build their resilience? Because we know it's a skill that can be built, right? It's not something that's innate. It's a skill that can be learned and built. Shelley has one example for us, but we'd like to then hear if others have some examples about how you can, as a coach, offer this to your coaching partners.
Thanks, Lorraine. So yeah, I had a school recently who they received 100 hours of coaching, which is probably every coach's dream for the amount of coaching hours you get for school through Colorado Shines. But then that led to some other questions for us, like how are we going to accomplish this? How am I going to deliver the 100 hours? How am I going to get the program involved? And so, I truly wanted it to be their rating and help guide them through it. So we set up a pyramid, and that was one person at the program was going to be in charge of the rating, and I requested it not be the director. And then I wanted two other people to be in charge of one person in charge of the itters side, one person in charge of the Eckers side. And so we set it up in this way to kind of, how do we eat an elephant, that one bite at a time. And in doing so, then when I wasn't there, staff had somebody to go to, and they were building their own capacity while I was coaching the 100 hours and to help them with that sustainability piece. And so it can be, a little bit of a struggle. And so I was reminded of Rita Pearson. She's the gal. I think most of you have probably seen her video, but she talks about the struggles of teaching and that we're going to teach anyway. And so for us, we're like, we're going to coach and we're going to get through this and we're going to do it anyway. And we, as a team with their assistant director and then a couple of their teachers that took on the lead, we created this sort of team at their own center. And they recently got a level 4, which was great, but now they have the sustainability and the capacity to keep that momentum going, which is what we want for that program. So that was my experience recently, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So thanks, Lorraine.
Thanks, Shelley. And it kind of fits with the quote on the slide. But when your mind tells you to quit, I've learned that you are just scratching the surface of your potential. You have so much left. If you can handle the voice of fear, you will find levels of grit, determination, and strength you didn't know existed. So your story helped illustrate that for us.
Yeah,
Thanks, Shelley.
absolutely.
So some practical strategies for cultivating these strong relationships. Um, One very strong predictor of a coaching approach that cultivates strong relationships is connection. So we know human connection is a sense of closeness, belonging, and shared experience that comes from those meaningful interactions and relationships with others. It involves feeling seen, valued, and heard, along with a sense of mutual understanding and empathy. We've talked a little bit about all those things already this morning. This sense of belonging can reduce stress and anxiety and even increase longevity. Essentially, connection is a fundamental human need. So, thinking about your own coaching approach, does it involve coaching to the human being, or is it more focused on an assessment tool or meeting standards? Some things we can reflect on as a coach. How is the human being, the person in front of you, how are they developmentally functioning? Or is it just the assessment that tells them and us how they're doing based on their performance? Thinking about that. Is your coaching focused on the person or the points? Right. I used to say with some of the assessment tools, it's not about the points, it's about the children. And now in coaching, we can look at it's not about the points, it's about the person, right? The real human being in front of us. And thinking about these reflective questions, how does that inspire change or not? Does it lessen the load on our coaching partners, or does it lead to increased turnover? How can we really be supportive in our coaching approach to really support the person that we're coaching, that we have a coaching relationship with, a meaningful relationship? So if you have any thoughts, feel free to put those in chat. And then Shelley's going to lead us in some other supportive networks. Maybe we'll go on to Shelley at this time. I just noticed our time, so we'll go on to Shelley.
Okay. Yeah, I was just looking at the chats. All right, so just some thoughts for creating supportive networks. If you can get it, if owners or directors, depending on the structure of your program, the great owners and directors, they'll allow you as a coach to pull teachers aside and, possibly have those few moments outside of the classroom, away from kids. The most I've ever gotten really with a teacher outside of children is really about 30 minutes. It's really not enough, and I recognize that, but just taking that, whatever moments you can grab, and building the relationship with that teacher outside of children will really go a long way. Also making sure that you're building relationships with everyone in the building, super critical. There's a cook at a particular school, and I say good morning to him every time I walk through, and we just have a good time bantering back and forth. But also, a lot of times we get some complaining that comes from the staff or the teachers, and it's just making sure that you have strategies to help shift administrators' knowledge and their choices, or the knowledge of their choices, and educators in the classroom and the director, they all set the tone for that stage. And it really, I always say the director or the owner's heart flows through the program. And true that the teachers, their heart flows through their classroom, but educators really need to take charge, and they don't need to ask permission to really make those changes in their classroom because they've already been entrusted with that. And so those are just some practical ways to kind of think about when you're in classrooms and in programs, and also just cultivating that connection. If you feel connected, you're working to maintain those connections and relationships. And like someone mentioned earlier, like making sure you remember their name, even when you haven't been there for a whole year. Certainly challenging for us as we have so much coming at us. And then and something else that I just remember is there's a quote out there. It says, every child needs one person that loves them unconditionally. Every adult does as well. And so that's just to just really be there for your coachees and connect with them and partnering with them and their goals in non-judgment and helping them achieve those. And then I wanted to share just a pretty simple wellness strategy that was introduced to myself and our family several years ago. And we certainly have done this, but do 3 things that you love every day. And you can take that to your coachees and remind them, do 3 things that they love every day. And so on work days, that could be as simple as taking a short walk, listening to music, and grabbing your favorite cup of coffee. And then on days off, it could be something more enjoyable, like a favorite hobby, spending quality time with family and friends, or reading a book. So it's really been something that I've had in the back of my mind for several years now, and doing those 3 things that really helps fill my bucket. And when I say those things to coachees, I say do 3 things for yourself that you love every day. And so that's definitely a practical strategy. And then with that, I will ask Janet and Lorene if they have anything to add to the conversation. And then Janet's going to take us into some breakout rooms.
I just want to mention, Shelley, that Cameron just put into the chat a handout that you and the Broomfield Early Childhood Council have put together on questions that I think are just really wonderful. So thank you to the Broomfield Early Childhood Council and Shelley for sharing such a great resource with us. I am putting into the chat and idea boards. And I'm going to share, if I can, Lorene, please.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share that up on our screen here. So what we're going to do now is look at going into breakout groups for about 10 minutes and really looking at this idea board. So what is the connection for you as a person, and as what is connection for you as a person and as a professional? Some people say to me, well, that's not professional. And I think there is a person in that professional. You cannot isolate the person from the professional. So once in your breakout group, whoever can pull this up on their own, that they could, take notes on this. I'm going to leave this up for all of us. We'll see it coming in, and you'll see the joint work coming in when we come back from this breakout group. But really look at exploring this question here on the screen with each other for the next 10 minutes. Any questions before we do that? So I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. I'm going to send us all into breakouts. Any questions at all at this point?
If you've not used an ideas board, it's similar to what was Jamboard. You can click on the plus. No, Janet, where do they get the sticky note? I forget. See, I forget. Just a quick, you can add sticky notes.
All right. What you do is when you get there, let me share that again. Here we go. Thank you, Lorene. I forgot to say that. So what you do is you just click on this positive sign right in here next to the question, and you just click on there and start typing away. Okay, that's all you need to do, and then enter, and then you can go to the plus sign and add another. So whoever is taking notes can certainly do that. Does that make sense? Well, let's see you in 10 minutes. Just click on going into the breakouts. It's like a few are not joining.
Cameron, you want to pause the video, the recording, please, while they're in the breakout room?
What everybody's, just to see what everybody said.
Welcome back, everyone. And, really, we're reading through some of these, and really it's about that trust and connection that support that resilience with time to reflect and create those sustainable relationships. Showing up is such a huge piece of that. And I want to refer back to the Colorado coaching competencies, where B is co-creating the relationship, establishing and maintaining agreements, cultivating trust and safety, maintaining our presence in those, etc. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'll PDF it and send it into the chat. Shelley.
All right. Thanks, Janet. Yeah, it'll be in the chat. Give it a couple minutes. So our last slide, which is not showing up, is a quote that I want to read to you guys. There we go. So we're going to close out with this quote, and it says, "The most important relationship you have in life is the relationship you have with yourself. The relationship is essential for relationships with all others." So I just want to pause and read through that a little bit slower. The most important relationship you have in life is the relationship you have with yourself. This relationship is essential for relationships with all others. So just really knowing yourself, knowing that the relationship you have with yourself is the most important thing that you can do for yourself, and it's the most important thing that you can do for everyone else, is to have that really great relationship and to do, make sure you're doing those 3 things that make you happy every day. And so with that, we'd like to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Here's some ways to contact us in the slide. And then I'd like to invite Janet and Lorraine to also give them the opportunity to say thank you for being here for our presentation today.
Go ahead, Lorraine.
Yeah, thank you. It was great to kick off our conference with this session. So thank you all for your participation. And we invite you to join the next session where you have more opportunity to interact with each other in some other breakout rooms. And that you should have those links if you've signed up for those. If not, let us know and we'll get you the link. Yeah, Janet?
I would definitely want to invite everybody to the next session where you're going to be processing all the information that you got out of this session. Yes, Cameron is putting into the chat now the feedback form for this particular session so that when you fill that out, you'll get a certificate for attending this. So that'll come up here in just a moment. But the next session is both Cameron and Phyllis Lucas from the consortium, deepening the work, reflecting on sustainable coaching relationships. So really, you're going to spend a lot of time in those breakouts for the next session and really make sure that you're processing that together. We have so much expertise on in our group right here. So many people that have been coaching for a really long time, and yet they're still learning, right? I love it. That's an important thing. So you see it in the chat there, the feedback form. So just go there, take a moment. It shouldn't take long to fill out that form. And we will see you back here at 11:15 for this next follow-up session in the morning. Thanks everyone for joining today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll sign off at this point so that Cameron can get ready for the next session. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all.
Bye, ladies.